Hey everyone, welcome back to our JRPG tutorial series. In the last episode, we set up a basic battle scene that loads when you walk into a battle trigger zone. But in classic JRPGs, battles don't happen in obvious spots. They happen randomly while exploring the world. So today we're building a real random encounter system, just like in something like Final Fantasy. By the end of this episode, you'll have walkable areas where battles can happen, and a probability-based encounter system, smooth scene transitions, and the groundwork for our full turn combat next episode. Let's start out by getting our random encounter area together. So, real quick, I'm going to end up building it in the scene. Some people do build it as a separate scene, which is nice because that allows you more flexibility in that you can make certain areas like safe zones, right, where they don't get hit. But you can also do that here, right? What I'm going to do is, with world selected, I'm going to right click, add a child node, and it's going to be an area 3D. Inside of this area 3D, I'm going to add another child node, and this time I accessed it by pressing Ctrl A. I'm going to add a collision shape 3D. That collision shape over here in the inspector is going to be a box shape 3D. And I'm just going to go to where I can kind of see these little red circles better, right? And I'm going to start dragging those out to increase our box. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to make it cover the whole area. Design wise, when you're working your areas, you may want to put more, make it more so that there's actual safe areas for your party, like to go rest and whatnot. I guess it really just depends, right? Like how you're designing your game. But remember, you gotta think player first, right? We all have our own specifics that we like in games, but when we're making games for the player, or at least that's what it should be. And what happened there? Huh. I made that 1,000 by accident. Alright, let's go with 10. What's going on here? Oh, that's the transform position. What's going on here? There's that, yep. There we go. I don't know why that messed up before, but that's really weird. Alright. There, now we got our box and our collision shape is surrounding that. From here, we're gonna need to add a script to it. So let's real quick rename this area 3D random encounter area. Now, something I did before, in between videos, is I created this battle scene. Well, we had the battle scene already. All I did was add some floors to it. That way, the player would have somewhere to be. I also added a player, or I adjusted the player and enemy spawn on where I want them. So, you guys may want to take a few minutes and pause the video and then just lay out a little map right there so that your player has somewhere to stand on. Now, back in this, what we're going to do is with random area encounter selected, we're going to create a script. We're going to make sure this is in our scripts folder under battle, because that's what it's going to be regarding. Leave the name as is, that's fine, and just press open, then create. Now, in this script, what we're going to end up doing is type in a whole bunch of stuff. So, let's start out with our variables. Right? So, at export variable encounter rate float equals 0.005. So this is the chance per step, right? That there's going to be an encounter. So it's a 5% chance that is as the player is walking, that there's going to be they're gonna enter an encounter. We're also gonna do a minimum steps variable. And a maximum steps variable. So that means if the player takes between X and, so in this case 10 and 30 steps, it's going to choose, the way we're going to code it is that when the scene loads, when the dungeon loads, it's going to come up with a number between 10 and 30. So say 22. So, and it's going to be every 22 steps, there's a 5% chance that the player is going to have a random encounter. That's how we're going to end up coding it. Now you can obviously change these however you want. Obviously, the higher chance, or the higher percentage, the percentage, then the higher the chance that the player is going to have an encounter. The lower, then the lower, right? Now, this video took me a few tries to get the code down. So I do apologize. If something doesn't work, make sure you reach out to me. Email me adaptedlab@gmail.com. Find a way to get a hold of me so I can help you out with stuff and getting that together. Well, granted, I've only been using Godot for a few years, but this one video right here took a few practices. I didn't know if I was gonna be able to get it even out in time this week, just because of some of the issues I was having. But here we are, we got it. So if you have issues, then definitely reach out. There we go. Anyways, I ended up, because I finally got this done, treated myself and downloaded and started playing Expedition 33. If you've played that, let me know in the comments. I really like it. It's taken a little bit to get used to, but I'm really starting to like the battle system and how they did that. The menu kind of reminds me of Persona 5 a little bit, but the combat itself is really awesome. Maybe I'll do a video video review on it or something. I don't know. Let me know if you guys would like to see that. So what we're doing is we're creating some functions here. We need to determine if the body is even in the trigger, which it will be, but we have to still determine that, right? And then in the ready function, we're going to call it when it enters and exits. I put exit in here even though in ours he's not really exiting, because I wanted to make it so that if you guys wanted to have it so that it was more smaller, actually that might be a better idea. Let's go back real quick. So just so that you can better visualize how this is going to work, let's go ahead and bring this down. And we'll say this area right here. And then we'll move the battle trigger into this room. So something else I need to do is I need to make sure that we code these doors to open, right? I just realized that none of these doors are going to open right now. So, alright, let's go ahead here, move this, whoops. So you can see that little outline there if you'd like. It's not going to really affect it, but you can go ahead and adjust the size of it if you'd like, by using the scales down here in the transform. That's just to kind of show you where it's at and positionally. But this is what matters here, is where our collision shape is. Alright, let's go back to our code. Alright, so let's see. What happened there? Alright. This should be like that. Oh, whoops, no. That should be like this. Let's see. Oh, because up here I put step instead of steps. There we go. Alright. So when the player enters the trigger, it's going to change it to yes, the player's inside to true. It's going to reset the steps to 0. And then it's going to start pick a number there. Is what it's going to end up doing. Here's some purring. That is my son's cat. Unfortunately, he likes to sit on my desk near the keyboard while I'm working, and then he tends to lay and roll over on top of the keyboard. Messed up a few recordings doing that sometimes. So like stop it, and then I won't realize that it stopped till much later. Alright, let's get our exit function going. Very simple, right? So we have on-body entered, sets the player to true, resets the steps to 0, and then picks the number of steps before it starts doing counting and doing the encounter rate again. And then when he exits the trigger, it just switches this to false, and then all of this turns off, and so does the random encounters. Now the rest of this, there's going to be a few things that are going to trigger some red errors because we haven't updated other scripts. So if it does, don't freak out. We will get to that. So don't you worry. This was already at 16 minutes. So this is going to be a longer video. Probably split up into 2 again as well because I tend to talk a lot. We're going to, well, not at some point. After this, we're going to update the game state. So some of these that you may not have, you will have at some point. Do you guys prefer it when I split these long videos up, or do you guys like to see the whole thing? So let me know in the comments so I know later on how to work this, because I hate that you guys get stuck hearing just a whole bunch of clacking from the keyboard. Something I'm working on is trying to get more chatty, I guess. That's a better way of saying it. This needs to be true. And then we're going to say get tree, because we're going to need to change this to our battle scene. Alright. So, our battle scene. Oh, hey, it's right there. So, right click on it, copy path. Once again, I added parentheses that weren't needed. Paste it in there. Alright, So here's what's going to happen. So we already talked about the entering and exiting, right? And then the registering. Now this function here registers the steps. And what's going to end up happening is it's going to say if the player's not inside it, then return, then don't do anything. Otherwise, we're going to set if the game state is in battle, also don't do anything, right? So it's going to check those. If the player's not inside, we're not doing anything. If the game state's not in battle, or if the game state is in battle, then we're not doing anything. Otherwise, what we're doing is we're increasing the steps by 1, the steps taken by 1. If the steps taken is greater than or equal to the step threshold, or if the random then we're going to check to see if the random number is less than or equal to the encounter rate. If it is, steps taken is going to be equal to 0. Then steps threshold is going to reset and it's going to choose a new number for the next time, and we're going to trigger the battle. And then this is going to trigger the battle, right? So we're saving the player position in the overworld, or in this case the dungeon. We're setting the game battle to true, or the in battle state to true, and then we're going to switch the scene to the battle scene. Okay? We're already at 21 minutes, so I'm going to save this. We're going to go ahead and go into our game state, and it's looking pretty bare, but it won't be here pretty soon, so don't you worry. What we're going to end up doing, go to our game state, and then from here we're going to start typing some stuff. So variable, we're going to have the variable for in battle, right? I was calling it a state earlier. I mean, the script is called GameState, but it's actually looking for the variable, so I do apologize for that. And we're going to have two functions in here: save player position, if the player and player dot is inside. Now this is going to be throwing an error because we haven't created this function yet inside our player controller. After this, we'll move into the player controller, but that will definitely be a new video. Unfortunately, we won't be able to really test anything in this video because we'll need that working beforehand. Probably something hindsight I should have started with is the player, but you know, at least you're starting to see how everything ties together. So I guess silver linings, question mark. Let me know again in the comments if you'd rather see stuff like this in the whole video, regardless of the length. It's a whole lot of typing and clacking and a lot of silence. Maybe I should start scripting some conversation points, not just my videos. So, there we go. All right. So, walking through this, we still have our vector 3.0 because we need that for our position for the player. We added this boolean for whether the player's in battle or not, and we created two functions. One is saving the player's position. So we're gonna the current position of the player in the world, right? We're gonna say if the player's there, and if they're inside the tree, right? So we're gonna be checking to see if they're inside the scene tree. We're gonna return position is gonna equal the player's global transform position. So we're saving all this data, right? Then we're gonna restore the position, and what's gonna happen is eventually our battle manager is gonna end up looking for that, right? So this function to restore it back to its original position here in the dungeon when the battle's over. So it's going to say if not in battle and the return position does not equal 0, then the player.global transform origin is going to equal the return position. So it's just going to do the opposite. It's going to put it back where it was. Alright, so that's it in this video because we're already at 26 minutes. In the next video, we'll hopefully be able to finish it up with very little issues in testing. But after we get the player controller updated, then we should be able to test some things out. So until then, keep learning, keep building. I'll see you in the next one.